Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today we're moving on to the glue gunners. This is the Bloon solver, the top path glue gunner, along with the Bloon liquefier and Bloon dissolver. These guys are the damage towers, and the glue, all the others are support. So we'll check this out. The Bloon dissolver is kind of an early game damage. Bloon liquefier is more for the mid game, and the Bloon solver, which is the main focus, is going to be a late game cleanup and mid game carry. Very interesting and very cool tower, so we'll definitely have to check out a lot with that. So let's take a look at some of the stats. So the Bloon dissolver, you don't really see this a lot. Like, it is alright, I guess. It can get a lot of benefits from a cross path and better than most people would think, but it doesn't really have much going for it past like maybe round 60 and stuff. And Bloon dissolver is kind of the same thing, but like with round 80. Bloon solver, on the other hand, not Bloon dissolver, Bloon solver is kind of crazy. It has this crazy pierce. Well, the Bloon dissolver has the puddle pierce too, but the Bloon solver ramps it up a lot, and you'll see some crazy combinations working with this. Now the cross path's really easy. It's all 020, so X20, 320, 420, 520, nothing too complicated there. And we're going to be taking a look at the splatter along with the Bloon solver later on, because it can really hit all the balloons. It has crazy pierce, but the pierce gain on the solver has a very cool mechanic we'll see later. Now when it comes to buffing, it's going to be pretty much a primary training. It's going to increase the pierce, make it able to hit a lot more, and then when it comes to the alk buff, you might see alk buff be applied to Bloon solver. And as I said, pierce, which is something that can be added to the solver, might sound weird at the start because it already has so much pierce, but you're applying pierce to the puddles now, which will increase its single target damage directly, because it's kind of more like a spike factory spike. When you increase this pierce of the spike factory spike, it does more damage. So kind of strange, but you get more damage from it. Now when it comes to the compatible glues, really the main thing to note is that it is compatible with relentless glue. You can have relentless and solver applied on the same time, except there's a weird thing where if the relentless is applied first, sometimes it won't affect it. So we'll take a look at that later. But when it comes to Moab glue, they are not compatible. So if you're getting a Moab glue, it has to be upgraded to relentless, to where then you can see they can be on top of each other. Now, this is a bit of a strange case, because if we have our relentless glue applied first, we aren't going to be able to damage it with the Bloon dissolver. But in a real game, this isn't, from what I found, to be like a super bad thing. You can still skip on relentless, but relentless is such a huge upgrade that it could be worth it. And I'm saying this because typically you'd have a tower that's doing more like single target damage and then solver cleaning up, so the single target damage will be able to take out the Moabs, and relentless is going to be focused on the Moabs, so it's not like it's going to be attacking the ceramics, and then the Bloon solver will be able to deal with the ceramics. In a practical sense, this seems to work out pretty well. In test, it just looks really weird and looks like it sucks, but that's alright. And then on maps, it's good on. The Bloon solver is a lot better on longer maps, but it still has a lot of potential and a lot of power even on shorter maps, like as you can see here on Peninsula. But if we take it over to an easy map, like not even like the shortest, I mean not even the longest maps in the game, like firing range here, it can almost solo round 98 with just an alk buff and a primary training, which is kind of crazy. It only leaks to some of these few COMGs on the side here, but yeah, like it's actually unbelievably strong on easier maps, and can on maps that are longer than fire range, it can solo in the entirety of round 98 alone with a few buffs. And for heroes that it's good on, this is really going to be like a cleanup tower, so you probably don't want to get like a cleanup hero, but just focus your hero maybe on more damage and with the tower that you're using for single target damage in the late game. So for the objectives, we're going to be looking at the Dissolver early game, the Liquefier mid-game, then the Bloon Solver mid-game carry, along with the late-game cleanup from Bloon Solver. So in this example here, we're going to be pretty much taking a look at all of that in one run on Adora's Temple, Chimps. So nothing too complicated. This map is very easy. So I'm just going to go with Quincy. I'm going to get a early game starter with a arcane spike. I'll get that up to camo later. Grab an alch buff on Quincy that will deal with leads, and the basis of this strategy is just going to be having a Sky Shredder, but in order to get that Sky Shredder, we'll get a mid-game carry from a Bloon Solver, and to kind of push us there, we are going to be using the Dissolver and Liquefier in the early and mid-game to help us out there too. We didn't really start off with the Dissolver. I went more for Quincy, alch buff Quincy with that arcane spike, just because that's way more consistent. You can't really rely solely on your damage from the glue gunner in the early game. It can help out, certainly. We'll see that later, but you can't really have only like a Bloon Dissolver unless it's like a really long map. Then maybe that will work. So after the 40s, I'm gonna get my Dissolver up. I'm not really gonna do a whole lot because the map is easy and Quincy's kind of soloing for now, but you'll see later on, like round 49, 47 here, it's gonna do some work. Get Liquefier 2, now it's going to do a lot more damage, and I'm just going to alch buff my ODS, make sure we can deal with the Moabs, and then we should be good. I'm just going to ramp up the speed, so it's now 5x speed comparative to the game, that would be 15x speed. So we're just going to be pushing way through this. The ODS is dealing with the Moabs, the Dissolvers, the Liquefier, this is dealing with the insides, and then we can get Solver, and now we have a mid-game carry. So you can get this pretty early on, and it's going to deal with pretty much everything, even like the fortified BFBs. If the map has like some decent length, like an advanced map, it could even deal with that with a little bit of help. But everything in the mid-game, as long as you have camo on this guy, it's pretty much going to be destroyed. So there's going to be no issues going all the way into the Sky Shredder from here. It's a decently expensive upgrade. I think it's 43k, right? Yeah, something around there. So we're going to be pushing into the 80s a little bit for it, but it's going to be no problem. It definitely is a strong tower, and you can get it in the mid game, going to beat all of that, and it's also going to have a ton of power in the late game too. So we saw it carry in the mid game, but I also am going to be using this for cleanup in the late game as well, with the Sky Shredder kind of dealing with our damage for like ZOMGs and DDTs and that kind of stuff. It doesn't really have much power when it comes to DDTs, ZOMGs, and fortified BFBs later on in the game, but for kind of BFBs, maybe BFBs, definitely even on shorter maps, Moabs, fortified Moabs, and ceramics, they're all going to get totally destroyed. So I got Sky Shredder there, as you can see, and it's taken out the top layers, and then the puddles and the Solver itself is just going to deal with all of the insides. And as you can see, I'm not spending the money, I'm just racking up this cash because I guess I can. You can get a really strong, really simple synergy with Bloon Solver and pretty much like any damage tower. Just make sure they're focusing on the heavy Bloons, and you have such an easy game. This is really going to be able to like beat pretty much any intermediate map and maybe some advanced maps too with extreme ease. So very cool. It might help you out a lot and change up your strategy a bit. So now I'm going to be moving on to the next example, which is just going to be like kind of showing the Bloon Dissolver in the early game. I have another intermediate map here. This is Sulphur Springs. I'm just going to be getting something to start off. As I said before, when you're doing this, you can't really start off directly with a glue. It doesn't really have any damage. So I got my air burst. I got my hero Churchill back there. He's doing fine. And now we're just going to be getting a corrosive glue with splatter. It's going to be dealing with some Bloons, help out a lot. It's going to slow them down and I guess use its damage over time. It also can deal with lead, so you can check that out too. And then I'm just going to get the Dissolver, and we're going to be doing a lot more work now. So this glue gunner and now Churchill definitely going to be able to take everything out. this really using the glue gunner in the early game when it comes to harder maps is not as good. I wouldn't really recommend doing this on like anything with advanced level, well, more like the harder advanced, probably some easier advanced maps. You could do something interesting with glue in the early game, but when it comes to those intermediate maps, you definitely could try something like this out, but it wouldn't really work too well on the harder maps. Typically, you'd see Liquefier come into play, which is the tier 4 more in the mid game. You wouldn't really see Dissolver get any action in the early game because you really have to do a lot to deal with that. So as you can see, I got the Liquefier Dissolver in the early game just fine there. So now let's move on to the next example, which is going to be not a mid-game carry, but we're going to be getting Bloon Solver in the late game to clean up on Pat's Pond, which is an awful map. This map like absolutely sucks. It's one of my least favorite maps. So we're going to do something crazy, and in order to do something crazy, we're going to have crazy cleanup, which is where Bloon Solver is going to come in. Now, as you noticed, this map is really short when it comes to like where we're going to actually be able to do damage. The paths have quite decent length, but pretty much all of the track where the balloons are moving is kind of like useless track because it doesn't really do much good to us if we're forced to place all of our towers in this spot. You could place your towers like all around, and then I guess the path would be realistically much longer because your towers are going to be damaging everything throughout the whole path, but then your setup's going to like absolutely suck and stuff is going to get through everywhere. So we're kind of forced on this map to put our towers all in one spot, and then that just makes it so the path is pretty much super short. That's really the case unless you're using snipers. I guess you could use other full map range towers, but they kind of suck on this map, so it's like that. Anyways, I'm doing this early game. I'm going for perma charge. I almost died there, caught that with my sword ability. I'm gonna grab a Abyssal Warrior to deal with some insides, do some pierce. Then I'm going to be getting a Bloon Liquefier, I guess, here for the mid game, but we aren't going to be getting Bloon Solver just yet. We're going to be working towards permacharge first because we need that damage. I'm going to be going for another kind of like more mid game carry tower. So we have this strange combination, and with all of these towers together, I kind of made something so we have like all of the right amount of damage. We have some support, some stall, some buffing power with like that village and alchemist, and some single target damage, pierce damage. We have these abilities that we can use in with like the helis are going to come out for first wave of 63, then I can use Sada's sword charge for second wave, turbocharge ability for third wave, and also this is something pretty cool that probably a lot of people don't know about. You could kind of comment if you didn't know about this, but you can have pursuit and put the heli on patrol points, patrol it between 2 points, and it's going to pursuit only within that one area. So if you have a map like this where if you just have it on plain pursuit, it's gonna be like flying everywhere in like the most useless places, probably more so in the middle of the pond the entire time. I can have it on pursuit now, but with the patrol points, set it to those 2 patrol points, and it's only going to be pursuing within that one area, which will actually make it like kind of useful. So I have that in the mid game. In the later game, I kind of just wanted the shove more self stuck in that one area, so we keep that there. But I get my permacharge, and then I'm able to get the damage to go straight into the Bloon Solver later on, and now we have the Bloon Solver, and this is going to be doing all my cleanup. I'm going to be focusing now when it comes to my support, everything on like this permacharge, slowing down these ZOMGs. I don't really have to worry about the Moabs and ceramics now because I have dealt with that with the Bloon Solver, so it's just all focus on these ZOMGs, the DDTs in particular. We're taking them down just fine, and with all of that, we have a great strategy that works. It's a little bit chaotic, but it works in spirit and all. So yeah, that's pretty much the Bloon Solver. Crazy cool tower, awesome, and can just be put in a lot of setups to make it way easier.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!